Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS and welcome to our YouTube Live. This is going to be a very important session for those who wish to write the Civil Services examination. And this session we have divided into two segments. In the first segment, I'm going to take you through the various stages of this examination. And in the second segment, I'm going to take your questions. And I can promise you, I'll take as many questions as you can possibly have. So all set, let's get started with our session today, beginning with UPSC, Union Public Service Commission, the central recruiting agency of the Government of India. Every year, UPSC conducts an examination called Civil Services Examination. And if you clear this examination, you can be an IAS officer, an IPS officer, an Indian Foreign Service officer, Indian Revenue Service officer, and there are many other services. Depending upon your performance in this examination, depending upon your suitability, your career in this. So basically, this is not a UPSC examination. It is not, in fact, an IAS examination. It is the Civil Services examination conducted every year by Union Public Service Commission. And this is a three-tier examination system. There are three phases in this examination. Prelims, followed by mains, and then we have a personality test. Let me take you through all these three stages. Prelims, basically MCQ based, multiple choice questions. Mains, descriptive. You will have to write answers in 100 words, 150 words, 200 words, depending upon the requirement of the question. And personality test is the oral test. You will be presented before the interview panel and you will have to answer the questions posed by the interview panel. Let's look at all these stages one by one. If you look at prelims, it consists of GS and CSAT. Let's look at the CSAT first. CSAT of 200 marks, 80 questions. Each question carries 2.5 marks. And the subject areas are English comprehension, mathematics, logical reasoning, data interpretation, decision making, so on and so forth. But all you have to score is 66 out of 200. If you score 66, your GS paper will be evaluated. That means CSAT is only qualifying in nature. You have to qualify this paper so that your GS paper can be evaluated, your GS paper can be checked, and whether you are going to appear in the mains examination or not will be entirely based on the marks that you score in GS. So CSAT is only qualifying in nature. But even then, there are aspirants who are scared of CSAT or who are slightly worried about CSAT. And mostly people are worried about two aspects of CSAT. One, English comprehension. The second, mathematics. Some aspirants say, I'm very weak in English, so I'm worried about clearing CSAT. There are others who say, I'm weak in mathematics, so I am not sure whether I can clear CSAT, whether I can score even 66 marks in the CSAT so that my GS paper can be evaluated. If you are one amongst those, let me make it very clear for you. CSAT is going to be a cakewalk for you. How? If you're worried about mathematics, skip it. Don't read mathematics, don't solve mathematics questions at all. Why? In a question paper on CSAT, there may be 8 questions, 9 questions, or maximum 10 questions that can be asked from mathematics. 10 questions into 2.5 means 25 marks. Forget about these 25 marks. Focus on the remaining 175 and try and score 66 out of 175. So that means you don't have to worry about mathematics if mathematics is your weak area, if mathematics you believe will not enable you to clear this examination. So forget about mathematics, don't study it. What about English comprehension? If you're weak in English comprehension, close to 40 to 45% of marks are allocated to English comprehension so far as CSAT is concerned. Even then you should not worry, because for the next 1 hour, or for the next 1 year or 1.5 years of your preparation time, you're going to study something called a newspaper, the Hindu, Indian Express. And if you read these newspaper articles, if you read these columns, if you read these opinion pages in the newspapers, your English comprehension is going to get better day by day. So you don't have to worry about English because that is already taken care of when you read the newspapers. So CSAT, you should not be worried about. But then there is one question that you can ask me. How do I know whether I'm weak in mathematics or I'm weak in English comprehension? Do one thing. Take previous 3 years question paper or 4 years or 5 years question paper in CSAT and solve them. Once you solve them, take a look at the UPSC website and take a look at the answer key of these questions and compare the answers with the answer key. Match the answers with the answer key. If on your own, you're scoring 80 plus, that means you download the question paper, you solve the CSAT paper, compare the answers with the answer key provided by the UPSC. If on your own, without any prior preparation, if you're scoring 80 plus or 85 plus, that means you don't have to worry about CSAT because all you have to score is 66 in CSAT. But if you score less than 80 or you score less than 85, then it is a cause for concern. But then you will realize that I'm not scoring 66, I'm not scoring 80 or 85 because I'm weak in English comprehension. I'm weak in logical reasoning. I'm weak in data interpretation. Then you will have to spend some time on your weak areas and cover CSAT. So CSAT, you should not be worried about. It's just a qualifying paper. You have to qualify this paper by scoring 66 marks, but you'll have to focus more on GS because the marks that you score in GS will determine whether you are going to appear in the mains examination or not. But what is this GS paper 1 that we are talking about in prelims? If you look at GS paper 1, it talks about 4 major subjects. One is polity. Then we have economy. Then we have modern history. Then we have geography, Indian geography, world geography. Then we have 2 allied subjects, environment and ecology. And then we have science and technology. And then there is a monster called current affairs. So 200 marks are allocated to GS1. Questions will be asked from the subjects such as polity, economy, geography, history, which includes art and culture, medieval India, modern history, stuff like ancient history. And then you have environment and ecology, science and technology, and something called current affairs. But let's take a pause here and look at main syllabus. In mains, we have GS1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we have an optional subject. Then we have an essay paper. And then we have 2 compulsory language papers. One is English. The other is any Indian language. But both these papers are also qualifying in nature, just like CSAT. But in CSAT, we have multiple choice questions. In these 2 language papers, you will have to write descriptive answers. English and your Indian language paper. Any language paper of your choice that is mentioned in the UPSC notification. But here also, all you have to score is 25% marks. So both these papers are of 300 marks each. All you have to score 25% in these 2 papers. If you score 25% marks in these 2 papers, then all these other papers will be evaluated. And the marks that you score in these papers will determine whether you are going to appear before the interview or not. That means these 2 language papers are also qualifying in nature, just like CSAT. The marks that you score in these 2 papers, whether it is 25% or 99.25, doesn't matter because these marks will not be counted. Whether you are going to appear in the interview will depend on the marks that you scored in GS 1 to 4, the marks that you scored in your optional subject and in your essay paper. But now let's compare the prelims and the main syllabus. If you look at prelims, it talks about polity. GS paper 2 also talks about polity. Economy is there in prelims. Economy is also there in GS paper 3. Modern history is there in prelims. It's also in GS paper 1. Geography is in prelims. It's there in GS paper 1. environment and ecology, science and technology in prelims. These papers are also part of GS paper 3. So what I'm trying to say is that there is an overlap. The syllabus for prelims is similar to the syllabus for the mains examination. So now the catch is, how do we prepare for prelims and how do we prepare for mains? Should I first start with prelims and then study for mains examination? Or should I first start with mains and then focus on the prelims? What should be the right approach so far as your civil services examination is concerned? Please understand one thing. What is the primary difference between prelims and mains examination? Prelims is MCQ based, yes. Mains is descriptive based, yes. But that is not the primary difference between the prelims and mains. What is the primary difference? If you look at prelims, it talks about two things. One, concepts. Second, facts. UPSC will test you whether you have the conceptual understanding or not, whether you have the factual understanding or not. So in prelims, your conceptual understanding and your factual knowledge will be tested and judged by the UPSC. What about mains examination? It's also about two things: elaboration and analysis. Elaboration of what? Elaboration of the same facts and concepts that you have studied for prelims. Analysis of the same facts and concepts that you have studied for prelims. That means basically the difference between prelims and mains is that prelims you have to focus on facts and concepts. In mains examination, you have to focus on elaborating those facts and analyzing those facts. How? Let me give you an example. Let's take up polity, for example. What is polity after all? You have to study the Constitution of India. You have to study fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, so on and so forth. You also have to study about the various laws that are passed by the parliament, about the various rules that are issued by the government of India. Factual understanding and conceptual understanding of all these aspects, prelims, but analysis of them is the subject matter of mains examination. How? Let's take up the office of governor. For example, in prelims, the question can be, consider the following statements regarding the office of governor and which of the following statements are correct. Statement number 1, the governor is appointed by the president for a term of 5 years. Whether this statement is correct or not, you have to mention. Statement number 2, the governor is removed from his office on the basis of the resolution passed by the parliament by special majority. You have to mention whether this statement is correct or not. So basically your factual, your conceptual understanding will be judged and tested by UPSC so far as your prelims is concerned. But what about mains? Same subject, polity, prelims, mains. Same topic, governor, prelims, mains. What type of questions can be asked in the prelims from this issue, governor? We have discussed. What about the mains examination? The office of governor is the relic of the colonial era and should be discarded. The office of governor should be abolished. Because we have seen in the recent past, this office of governor has been politicized by all the central governments. Doesn't matter UPA or NDA, all the central governments, they have politicized this office, manipulated this office of the governor. So you will have to mention the reasons why this office of governor should be abolished. So basically what I'm trying to say is that when you start your preparation, you don't have to focus on only prelims or only mains. You have to club the two together. That is what we call at BYJU'S integrated approach. You don't have to separate prelims from mains. You have to prepare for both prelims as well as mains simultaneously. Because so far as prelims is concerned, you have to focus on concepts and facts. And only when you are true to the concepts and facts, when you have the strong grip over the concepts and facts, then you can analyze them, then you can elaborate them, and then you are ready for your mains examination. So prelims is about facts and concepts, mains is all about elaboration and analysis of the same facts and concepts that you have studied for prelims. Let me give you one more example. Let's say, for example, modern history. There can be a question on Quit India movement. Which of the following statements regarding Quit India movement are correct? Number 1, CPI and Rajaji, C. Rajaji, did not participate in the Quit India movement. Correct. Both CPI as well as Rajaji did not participate in the Quit India movement. So your factual understanding of Quit India movement will be tested and judged by the UPSC. But so far as mains examination is concerned, the question can be something like this. Quit India movement was the watershed movement in the history of India's struggle for freedom. Elaborate. Why was it watershed? Because when you say quit India, that means there is no coming back. Previously, the Congress party were asking for that we should be given a dominion status. That means our ruler will be British, the laws will be passed by the Indians in Indian legislature, but overall sovereignty will be given to the British Empire. We won't ask for complete independence, we're only asking for dominion status. And over a period of time, they started asking for quit India. That means the British should leave this country, they should quit India, and we want an independent sovereign state for the people of this country. So when you say quit India, that means there is no coming back. Now you can't ask for dominion status. Now you can't ask for that more and more Indians should be admitted to the Indian civil services. That means now the demand has to be when British will leave, not whether they should leave or not. That is why we call Quit India the watershed movement in the history of India's struggle for freedom. That's how you will have to prepare for prelims and mains. Prelims is about facts and concepts. Mains is about elaboration and analysis of the same facts and concepts that you've studied for your prelims examination. But then if we look at this examination, there are three important areas that you will have to focus more on. I'm not saying you have to neglect other areas, but there are three areas on which you will have to focus more. One is your optional subject. Second is your essay paper. And third is your GS paper 4. You don't have to neglect GS 1, 2, 3, but you'll have to focus more on your optional subject, on essay and GS paper 4. Why? Because these are various scoring areas. How? Optional subjects varies. Someone might take political science and international relations, someone might take sociology, someone might take mathematics. But if you're stronger in your optional subject and 500 marks are allocated to an optional subject, and if you can cross 300, 325 in your optional subject because you are very strong, you have devoted much attention to your optional subject, there is no reason why you can't clear this examination, and that too with a good rank. So optional is a very, very important area that you will have to focus more. And how to choose an optional subject? We have already released a video lecture on that. It's close to half an hour video lecture wherein I have explained what are the various parameters that you'll have to keep in mind while choosing an optional subject. Please go through that video lecture. But what about essay? No two people, no two aspirants can write a similar essay, despite the fact that they may have similar ideology, despite the fact that they may have read a similar newspaper or similar content they will have gone through. But no two individuals can write the same essay. That is where essay is scoring. If you can know what should be the introduction of your essay, what should be the body of your essay, how do you conclude your essay, that is going to be a very, very important factor for you to get good marks in your essay. And third is your GS paper 4. That is what we call ethics, integrity, and aptitude. Again, here mostly case studies are provided. Let's say, for example, you are head of a district, and in your district, the government has released a notification that it is going to be a period of intense heat wave for the next 10 days. What are the proactive steps that you can take to prevent deaths due to heat or overheat? This is something that you have to answer in a manner that you are already a civil servant, because the question tells you that you are the head of a district, and the question asks you what are the steps that you have to take to prevent deaths due to heating. So someone might write that we should close the school. Someone will write, no, we should change the school timings so that children are brought back to their homes before 12 noon. That is when the sun is at its peak. Someone will write that we'll have to ensure drinking water. Someone else will write, no, apart from drinking water, we have to provide for ORS solutions as well. Let's go for more plantation. But that is very unrealistic solution. because you can't plant a tree and then this tree cannot grow up to its maximum size in 10 days, because by that time the number of deaths would have peaked. So you will have to provide realistic solutions to the problems as well. That is why I say no two individuals can write a similar answer in your GS paper 4, and that is why it is scoring. So there are 3 areas where you will have to focus more on. That doesn't mean you have to neglect other areas, but focus more on your optional subject, on your essay and GS paper 4. But now let's look at 2 more things. That's the question that everybody keeps asking. What about our current affairs? And how should we make notes? Current affairs is the key to success in this examination. If you ask any topper or any person who has cleared this exam or those who are appearing in this examination, they will tell you 60-70% questions in prelims are from current affairs. In your mains examination, 80% questions are from current affairs. So current affairs is one of the most important areas in your examination. But what is this current affairs? The syllabus tells us current events of national and international importance. You need 2 to 3 things for you to clear this examination. Number 1, you should be motivated, because this is a long process. People say that this is the world's toughest examination. It is not. In fact, it is the world's easiest examination. There is a well-defined syllabus for this exam, and then there is a newspaper. All you have to do, link the 2. Link whatever is there in the newspaper, link it with your syllabus, the problem is solved. But this is a process which takes 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years for it to fructify. That means if you're planning now and you're appearing in 2020, so 1 year prior to your prelims examination, you have to start your preparation. Then prelims is in June, mains examination September, October, then the interview in March, April. So this entire process consumes more than a year. That means this entire process stretches for 2 or 2.5 years, depending upon when you are clearing this examination. This is where motivation plays a very important role. Sometimes you'll bang your head. What am I getting myself into? I was happy in my job. I was happy at a university. I was happy at a college. I was happy doing nothing. But this is something that is not my cup of tea. I can't do this. This is where motivation plays a very important role. You have to keep on asking yourself, why is it that I want to clear this examination? Why is it that I have fire in me, that I want to be a bureaucrat? I want to be a civil servant of this country. And this motivation will help you to further channelize your energies and prepare for this examination holistically. So motivation is a very important factor. And motivation can be anything. This is my father's dream. This is my mother's dream. This is my dream. I want to serve the society. Motivation can be anything, but there has to be motivation. Second, dedication. And guidance. When we talk about dedication, that means there has to be a plan. There has to be a proper schedule, a timetable that you will have to stick to. Timetable can be, I'll read newspaper every day, plus I will take a subject, let's say I'll start with polity, and then I will also write few answers on these questions. This can be your strategy daily, but you'll have to stick to this. And over a period of time, you have to enhance, you have to increase your target area, you have to enhance your schedule. So then the schedule, daily routine would be newspaper, plus 1 essay, plus polity, plus geography as well, and then your optional subject as well, depending upon whether you are preparing for this exam full-time or you are working at a multinational company. So the plan or the process will vary from individual to individual, depending upon how many hours do you have at your disposal to prepare for this examination. But there has to be dedication, there has to be a dedicated schedule that you will have to follow. And then guidance. Somebody has got to tell you what to study, how to study, but more importantly, what not to study as well. Because this exam, if it does not require coaching, true, it may or may not require coaching, but it does require guidance. Somebody has got to tell you what to study, which books to read, which sources to cover for your current affairs. And if you have these 3 areas, ingrained in your mind, there is no power on earth that can stop you from clearing this examination, that too with a good rank. Motivation, dedication, and guidance. Remember one thing, never ever take your eyes off the syllabus. The syllabus is the Bible for this examination. If you follow everything that is there in the syllabus, there is no reason why you can't clear this examination. So all the questions that are asked by the UPSC are in conformity, are in agreement with the syllabus that they have prescribed. So you don't have to take your eyes off of the syllabus. And one thing that you will have to remember for this exam is syllabus. This exam is not a test of your rote memory. So nobody is going to test you on statistics. Nobody is going to test your memory. But your analytical mind will be tested. But there is only one thing that you will have to memorize, and that is syllabus. So that when you open a newspaper, it will quickly hit you that this particular newspaper article is related to GS paper 2, GS paper 3, GS paper 1, or my optional subject. So one thing that you will have to memorize for this exam is your syllabus. Memorize it by heart so that the moment you read anything, any book, any newspaper article, you know for sure that this is relevant for my examination. And when you look at the syllabus, it has various points. It has various aspects. It has various subtopics. Prepare notes for all these subtopics. Let's say, for example, secularism. This is mentioned in your GS paper 1, the Society of India. And one of the challenges or the problem areas that we have is secularism. How to make notes. Secularism, what is the definition of secularism? Second, what are the problems with secularism? Third, what are the various initiatives that have been taken by the government to strengthen secularism? And then newspaper articles. In newspaper articles, you will read so many times that today we have seen an assault on secularism, or we are deviating from the constitutional objective of secularism in our country. Mention these important lines, important statements in your answers, in your notebook, and then the problem is solved. So for every topic that is there in the syllabus, prepare notes for the topic. And when you have prepared holistic notes on that topic, that means you already have the content ready with you. So that there is a question tomorrow in your examination, you don't have to search for an answer. You can quickly memorize it and you can quickly recollect what you have mentioned in your notebook and you can reproduce it in your answer book. That should be your strategy. And that is why we say link everything to your newspaper and the syllabus. Whatever is there in the newspaper, if it is relevant for your examination, keep a note of it in your notebook so that tomorrow, whenever there is a question along similar lines, you can take out whatever you have written in your notebook and reproduce in your answers. That is going to fetch you more marks than anyone else. Because UPSC, when they test your answers, when they judge your answers, when they evaluate your answers, they also look for whether you have been in a position to link this question with what is happening around in this country and anywhere else in the world. And if you have that power, if you have that tendency, if you have that capability to link the question with something of a current affairs development, then surely you're going to get better score than anyone else writing this examination. That is why current affairs plays a very important role in this examination. And for current affairs, you should follow the Hindu newspaper daily, religiously, without any break, because to tell you one mantra for the success, if you read newspaper, you will clear this examination. If you don't read a newspaper, if you don't understand a newspaper, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many articles you read, you're not going to clear this examination. I'm not saying you may or you may not clear this exam. You will never clear this examination if you don't read, understand, and follow a newspaper. But right now, if you look at the questions being asked over the past few years, you can't only rely on one newspaper, the Hindu. Because if you look at the Hindu is also leftist in its ideology, always critical of the government, always criticizes the government. Even if the government is doing something good, they will have a point of criticizing the government. That is why you will have to balance your answers. And balance your answers by reading Hindu as well as Indian Express. That should be your strategy for current affairs. Now, there are various questions asked by the people. Should we also follow a current affairs magazine? Should we also follow a particular blog? Should we also follow various other websites for current affairs? Trust me, keep your sources minimal. But revision is the key to success in this examination. I can promise you, if you religiously follow these two national newspapers, the Hindu and Indian Express, you don't have to follow any magazine. You don't have to follow any other source for your current affairs. Keep your sources always minimal. Let's say, for example, there is a question for modern history, which is the best book that I can read, or how many books should I read? Should I read NCERT, then Rajiv Ahir, then should I go for Bipin Chandra? If you look at all these sources, will have duplicate content. Whatever is there in Bipin Chandra, that's also there in Rajiv Ahir, that's also there in NCERT. So why do you want to read multiple books on a single subject? Keep your solutions or keep your sources minimal, but revise. Revision is the key. Follow one book but read it 10 times instead of reading 10 books but only once. That is going to be the biggest takeaway from this session that you can take. And finally, once you have cleared the mains examination, then you appear before the interview. The interview marks matter as well as they don't matter. How? Interview marks will not let you clear this examination because you have already cleared this examination. How? Mains. To make it simpler for you, whether you are clearing this examination or not will be entirely based on the marks that you scored in mains. But whether you are clearing with rank 10 or rank 100 or rank 900, that will be based on the interview marks. That means interview marks will not propel your success, but interview marks will only tell you where exactly do you stand in that list. Top 10, top 100, or towards the end of the list. That is the significance of the interview. And number two, interview is not a test of your knowledge because your knowledge has already been tested at the prelims and the main stage. Interview is about your personality. That is why we call it a personality test. The interview will test whether you are suitable for a career in civil services or not. And this is an area that nobody can teach you. This is who you are. So you have to be as natural as possible, as liberal as possible before you are presented, when you are presented before the interview panel. So interview is something that nobody can teach you. Nobody can coach you for. You can attend as many mock interviews as possible, but just to get an idea about your DAF. Detailed application form. This is something that you'll have to fill at the times of the mains examination. And almost 90% of the questions that are asked by the UPSC at the time of the interview revolve around this DAF. So this DAF you will have to have a great understanding about. What am I mentioning in my DAF? What are my hobbies? What are my interest areas? And mostly the questions will be around this DAF that you have mentioned. So this is our first segment, wherein we talked about the various stages of this examination process. I told you that this is a 3-tier examination system, prelims followed by mains and then the personality test. I told you that there are 3 strong areas that you'll have to focus more on. One is your essay, ethics paper, and your optional subject. And I've told you why current affairs is indispensable for the success in your examination. Now I'm going to leave the floor open for questions. Shoot as many questions as you can possibly have, and I'm going to reply to each one of these questions. What are the must-read books for this exam? For every subject, pick one book. That's all. Let's say, for example, for polity. For polity, you should follow M. Lakshmikant. But please understand, M. Lakshmikant is only meant for prelims. It will not help you in your mains examination. So Lakshmikant plus current affairs, plus the Hindu and the Indian Express, that is going to be your source for your polity. Because in polity, let's say for example, Lakshmikant book talks about union territories. It talks about that we have 7 union territories, and because of these reasons, we have 7 union territories in this country. But the question in mains examination can be, union territories are outcasts in democracy. Why should we have union territories in the first place? Is it not violative of Article 14? Let's say, for example, if I'm from Karnataka, I can choose my chief minister, I can choose my MLAs, and if they do not perform well, after the end of the 5 years, I can throw them out and I can elect someone else. But what about union territories? They can't choose their chief minister. They don't have a legislative assembly except Delhi and Puducherry. And even in Delhi and Puducherry, we have a problem. In Delhi, whether it is the Council of Ministers headed by the chief minister who is the final authority, or is it the lieutenant governor? Similarly, in Puducherry, whether it is Mr. Narayan Swamy, the chief minister, who has the ultimate authority, or is it Ms. Kiran Bedi, the lieutenant governor of Puducherry? So these issues will be highlighted in the newspapers. So Lakshmikant plus newspaper article, link the two, that is going to be your source for polity. Similarly, for modern history, for example, focus only on Rajiv Ahir. Again, let's say, for example, art and culture. You can focus only on Nitin Singhania. But then there are many aspirants who say, Nitin Singhania, not many questions have been asked from Nitin Singhania. So should I also follow another website? Should I follow another book? Should I follow these many sources? Irrelevant. Please understand one thing. If there is a question on art and culture, and it is a difficult question to answer, although the fact is that you have read Nitin Singhania, please assume that this is a difficult question for everybody. There are some areas where you just have to superficially read a particular book, and if you can answer the question in the examination, okay. And if you can't answer, assume that nobody else can answer this question. Because sometimes the questions on art and culture are so difficult that even if somebody is doing a PhD on art and culture, he won't be in a position to answer. So it is difficult for you, it is difficult for everybody. If you can answer that question, well and good. If not, it's difficult for everybody. But follow only one source and revise it multiple times. Similarly, for economy, you can follow Sanjeev Verma. I can draw a lot of flack for saying this, but don't read the Ramesh Singh book. It is not worth for a civil services aspirant. Similarly, for geography, go for NCERTs from class 6th to 12th. Plus, if you have some time, go through GC Leong as well. But don't read multiple books on a single subject. It's going to be a waste of your time. It's not going to add anything. The return on investment, ROI, is very poor if you follow multiple sources. There is another question about when should I start answer writing practice. There is no wrong time to do the right thing. We always procrastinate. I'll first complete my syllabus, then I will start writing this examination. In this way, you will never start writing your answer. Do one thing. It is the fear in an aspirant that stops him or her from writing the answers. Let the fear disappear. In any case, for your mains, you will have to write answers. So why can't you start now? If you read a particular book, you have completed 15 to 20% of that book, that is the time when you should start writing answers. Don't delay, don't procrastinate. And don't think that once I have full knowledge about a particular subject, then I will start answer writing. That's never going to happen. Similar is the case with when people ask, when should I plan my preparation? Should I first complete my engineering and then plan my preparation? Should I join a coaching institute and then plan? Okay, I'll not plan today, I'll plan after the festival is over, after my semester exams are over. In this way, you will never start your preparation. The moment you decide that this is something that I want to do, I want to write this exam, I want to be a bureaucrat, I want to be an IAS officer, that is the time when you should start your preparation. Don't delay, because that's going to boomerang on you. There is another question on when to start IAS prep, before college or after college. Depends on who is asking this question. If you are in college, then the answer is start in college. If you have left the college or working somewhere else, start now. When is the best time to start preparation? Now is the best time. But ideally, 1 year prior to your prelims examination, that should be the time when you should seriously start preparing for this exam. How working professionals should prepare for this exam? Again, it varies. There are people who say the toppers who have cleared this exam. Some people say, I studied for 3 hours every day and I cleared this exam. Then there is another extreme. I studied for 18 hours, 20 hours a day, and that is how I cleared this exam. All lies, blatant lies. How many hours should I spend? It's completely subject to. Let's say, for example, I am an individual and you're an individual. We both read this newspaper. It takes you 10 minutes to understand the crux of this newspaper article, the gist of this newspaper article. And for me, it takes 1 hour to understand what the writer is talking about. So will the number of hours for both of us be the same? It's very subjective. There is a syllabus. Start your preparation now and take a look at your schedule. If you're in a position to cover 10% of your syllabus in 1 month, that means you should devote 6 to 7 hours every day. But if you can read and understand faster, that means you need only 4 to 5 hours per day. And if you are a working professional, divide your time in such a manner that you don't miss out on even a single minute. So you can read newspaper while you are in office. Clearly, there is ample time for you to read the newspaper while you're in office. Coffee time, tea break, so on and so forth. You can finish the newspaper. There are people who say we don't have time. That's an excuse. That's an alibi. If you want to do something, you will find a way. If you don't want to do something, you will find an excuse. You will find an alibi. So please don't tell me I don't have time. Everybody, every single aspirant in this country will have the ample time to clear this examination. And so you have. All you have to do, plan appropriately, plan judiciously. There are people who say, should I follow one subject per day or go for multiple subjects? Again, it depends on your mentality. There are people who are very confident with one subject. They will finish this subject and then jump to another subject. There are others who get bored. I can't read polity all through the day. Mix it up. Have some variety. Have some spice in your life. So mix polity with economy. And this way you can cover both the subjects simultaneously. Whatever works for you, please follow that. But you should have only one thing in your mind, that this is the syllabus that I have and I have to clear the syllabus. And I have to clear the syllabus within this possible time frame. It can be 6 months, it can be 7 months, it can be 1 year. Finish it off. That's it. If I listen to daily BYJU'S news analysis and make notes and complement it with any good monthly booklet, it will be enough to prepare for current affairs. More than enough. I would only say, remove one source. Don't go for even monthly booklets. Read newspaper on your own, because there is no substitute for your own reading of newspaper. We make this task easier for you. When I take, for example, when I take the daily newspaper analysis, I take a look at the newspaper article, but then I dig deeper. I go into the background of this newspaper article so that I can present you a one-stop solution for your current affairs needs. But even then you should read the newspaper, because you will find fodder for your answer writing. And your vocabulary will increase, which will help you in your CSAT as well. And it will boost your confidence when you appear before the interview panel as well. Don't ever skip reading newspaper. But you can always follow the BYJU'S daily current affairs as well. Don't rush. I'm here. I'm going to answer all your questions one by one. How many questions should we attempt to qualify for prelims? Again, it depends upon the difficulty level of that question paper. Sometimes 100 is more, sometimes 110 is less. It varies, it depends. But to be on the safe side, you should ideally target 120 plus, so that you are sure that you are going to clear the prelims examination and you will quickly start preparing for your mains. Because see what happens. I'm an aspirant. I appeared in the prelims examination, and after my prelims is over, now I'm checking the various answer keys of different coaching institutes. And based on these answer keys, somebody is giving me 105, somebody is giving me 107, somebody is giving me 110. But still I'm in a dilemma. whether I'm clearing this examination or not. So what I do, I waste my time. Till the prelims result is declared, I don't study for mains examination. To rectify this, if you target 120 plus, that means in any case you're going to appear before the mains examination. Then you will not lose this important 1 month between your prelims exam and the result, and you will dedicatedly focus on your mains examination. So target should be 120 plus, but it depends upon the vacancies in a particular year. It depends upon the difficulty level of that question paper. Saurabh Pandya writes, I had 2-year gap in my graduation between first year and second year and didn't enroll for PG. Will it affect me in the interview? Never. How? I told you that you're clearing this exam only on the basis of the marks that you scored in mains. If you look at mains, 500 marks for your optional, 250 marks for your GS papers, 250 marks for your essay, total 1750. And the marks allocated for interview, only 275. So at the times of the mains examination, when the UPSC evaluates your answer, they don't know that you had a gap between the first and the second year. So they don't know you. It's only at the time of the interview that they know you. In any case, 275 marks won't matter. If you're scoring good in mains examination, you're clearing this exam. How to stay motivated? Read success stories. Read some inspirational stories, watch some inspirational videos on YouTube, and go back to your question. The first question that every aspirant should pose to himself or herself. Why I want to write this exam? Why is it important for me to clear this examination? Why is it important for me to be a star bureaucrat in this country? And that is your motivation. Some tips for 2nd June also. 2nd June, the prelims 2019. What are the tips for that? Sleep well before your prelims examination. Don't overstress. Because if you look at, there are 4.5 lakh aspirants who are writing this exam. But believe me, only 1 lakh people are serious aspirants who have prepared dedicatedly for this examination. Others are just for the sake of it. They have filled the form, they have appeared in the exam, that's all, but they're not serious contenders. The competition is between these 75,000 and 1 lakh people who have prepared for this exam religiously for the past 1 year. But even most of these individuals are going to make mistakes because they overstress. What if I don't clear this exam? What if whatever I have read doesn't come in the examination? Keep it simple. Keep it simple, have some good 7-8 hours sleep before your prelims examination, and take it just as any other life process in your life. UPSC is not the end of your life. It may be a beginning for a new life, but it is clearly not the end of your life. June 2nd, if you have prepared well, if you have followed current affairs religiously, take as many mock examinations as possible, mock prelims examination as possible. Focus more on current affairs with some additional tips. That's short way to success for your prelims exam. Which types of questions are asked in the essay? Again, it varies. Some can be philosophical questions. For example, there is everything in the world for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. Mahatma Gandhi. There can be a quote on Mahatma Gandhi and you'll have to write an essay on that. Sometimes it is also on current affairs. So essays specifically what you should do, for every month, there will be 4 to 5 hot topics that dominate the newspapers and dominate the television debates, right? Pick all these 3 or 4 topics and write 1,000 words on that topic. Let's say, for example, corruption, women's empowerment, education. So that if tomorrow there is a question along these lines, you have the content ready-made available with you. You just have to fine-tune the content and then write in the examination. So current affairs plays a very important role even in your essay. That is how you should deal with it. Is it necessary to follow daily PIB apart from the said two newspapers? Not necessary, you can skip it as well. But let's say, for example, on our BYJU'S website, we provide you the gist of PIB so that you don't have to go through the releases of PIB on a daily basis. Just go through that gist, that is more than enough. How to choose optional which have more concept and logic rather than facts to remember, having metallurgical engineering background? Please reply. Let's say, for example, take some time. If you're planning now and your target is 2020 examination, if you have metallurgy background, doesn't matter. For the next 4 to 5 months, focus on GS, polity, economy, geography, social issues, international relations. And over a period of 4 to 5 months, maybe you'll start falling in love with polity. You can take public administration as your optional. You'll say, no, geography is slightly better. I have started developing interest in geography. It's fascinating to read about various geographical concepts, then opt for geography. If you think, no, I think I can understand newspaper better. I think I have a sociological bent of mind to understand issues from the sociological perspective. Let's say corruption, for example. What are the ways in which we can eradicate corruption? We have to understand that corruption is not a legal issue or a criminal issue. It's a social issue because everybody is corrupt. If I have the opportunity, I'll steal money. If I have the opportunity, I'll fudge the bills. So corruption is basically a social issue. So we have to tackle the mindset of the people to eradicate corruption from the society. Behavior we have to change. So if you think that I can look at issues from the sociological perspective, I can take sociology as an optional. So for the next 4 to 5 months, focus on GS and clearly you will have the answer to this question, which optional is better for me. But keep 3 things in mind. You should have an interest in that optional subject because you have to devote 3 to 4 months for your optional subject. So unless and until you're interested in that subject, you can't prepare for that subject. Number 1, interest. Number 2, the syllabus should be short because you don't have all the time in the world to prepare for this examination. You want to prepare for this for the first time and clear it in your first attempt. Syllabus should be short for that. And third, it should also be scoring. So a scorable subject, you should opt for it. There are many more questions which are very specific and whether we should ask them or not. I'll take as many of these specific questions as possible, but if I cannot answer all these questions, I have an option for you. Please drop in your questions at iasprep@byju's.com. And within a day or 2, I'm going to answer all these questions one by one. So that is it from our YouTube Live. If it has been beneficial for you, if you have learned something out of it, please like us, join us, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an update so far as your current affairs is concerned. That is it from now. Thank you for being with us. Have a great day.